Chapter 6. It's not an exaggeration to say that having a gun pointed at you and your newborn child is one of the most terrifying things that can happen to a person. But my terror is short-lived. As short-lived as that asshole's life in my apartment. Several things happen at once and I only have time to step back and tighten my arms around my irate child as a scene straight out of a horror movie unfolds before me. First, Zev's body shifts from man to wolf in one astounding moment. It's like a controlled burst of energy. He takes in a breath, then his features and limbs transform in a smooth, exotic motion, his bones reshaping as white fur grows over skin. He lands gracefully on all fours, majestic and intimidating. I've seen a couple wolves in my life, and Zev's at least twice as big as any of them. Before I can even unpack that transition, Darius moves with lightning speed, disarming John just as the gun goes off, blowing a hole in my ceiling and traumatizing my eardrums. Next, Zev leaps into the fray, his claws digging into John's chest and tearing through flesh, muscle and bone like the bastard is made of butter. And finally, Darius's teeth sharpen into knives, and he twists John's neck to the side, sinking his fangs into John's pulsing vein. I don't know what kills him, the wolf mauling or the vampire draining, but within seconds his lifeless form is dropped to my floor like a bag of flour. The thunk he makes is slightly wet like a splat and I swallow back vomit and shield Rain's eyes from the gore, even though I know she technically can't see that far yet. What the F? I can't even finish my thoughts before Rune appears, his body blocking what remains of the door frame as his sharp blue eyes take in the scene. Darius glances at him. There was a situation, he says before looking down at the body and then back to Rune. It's been resolved. I nearly choke on his casual tone.
Rune nods.
Good. AJ is in the bar. You might need to. Darius nods. Understood. He disappears downstairs while Zev remains a wolf, sitting by the door like a guard dog. And the child? Rune locks his gaze with mine, and in 4 long strides is by my side assessing both Rain and me. You are shaking. Shock.
Come.
He guides me out of the living room and into my bedroom, then sits me on the bed and gently removes the screaming child from my arms. She is hungry but safe. He looks at me with more compassion than I've ever seen from any of them. If you cannot feed her, I can make her a formula that will satisfy. My mind is having trouble translating sound to words, but it clicks into place when he starts to leave with her.
No.
Give her to me. I can do it. He nods and hands Rain back, and without regard for modesty as that ship has long since sailed, I pull out a breast and let my baby latch on. Rune watches, his eyes mostly locked on Rain, I'm sure to confirm she's okay. After everything that transpired. Still, his eyes spend a little more time on me than they have in the past. His gaze trails over my naked breast, then along my neck and up to my eyes. A hint of modesty creeps back into my psyche as I realize how disheveled and generally disgusting I must look. I know I certainly feel beyond gross after a day of work, childbirth, intermittent sleep and no bathing. I break eye contact before he does, checking on Rain to make sure she's drinking all right. She's chugging away, blissfully unaware of everything. Wonder how old she'll be when I can finally tell her the story of her birth. Right now it seems like it would be too traumatic at any age. I smile to myself as I think of getting a picture of the 3 sexies holding Rain, each looking deathly serious, to put in her baby book. Then I laugh out loud when I imagine Darius not showing up in the picture if that adage about vampires is true. What? What's wrong?
Rune asks.
Is laughter a sign of distress where he's from? Do vampires show up in mirrors or pictures? I ask.
Rune frowns.
Is there a reason they wouldn't? I shrug, just trying to figure out how much of what I think I know is real. He sniffs. Well, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in what most humans imagine any of us to be like. Honestly, I have no idea where they come up with some of it. Right. Well, you'll have to fill me in on what's real and what's not. Switch Rain to my other breast. In the meantime, I'm going to finish feeding and change her. You should go see. What the actual mother-loving hell is this? It would appear AJ has seen the body of her now dead husband. I hear one of the guys saying something to her, but she comes busting into my room, her eyes wide, blood drained from her skin. Oh my lord, woman, you scared the shit out of me. I thought that bastard. She rushes me and the baby, evading Rune, who tries to stop her as she sits next to me on the bed and wraps her arms awkwardly around me as Rain continues to feed. Are you okay? Is my god baby okay? She asks, tears now streaming down her face. I lean my head against her forehead the way we used to do, like cats, headbutting each other. We're safe. But I'm sorry about, it's a pretty weak apology for, I don't know, being an accessory to murder. Not really sure what my role was, so I can't figure out the appropriate response. Hallmark doesn't make cards for sorry. The 3 supernatural beings who came here to kidnap my kid killed your abusive asshole husband in the most violent way possible. I'm guessing the demand isn't high for that sort of thing. Very niche market. But AJ just shakes her head. Girl, there's a lot you need to explain, but right now I'm just relieved you and Cutie Pie here are okay. That asswipe can burn in hell for all I care. You're not mad? I ask. I'm not mad he's dead. I'm mad there's blood all over my newly refurbished apartment, but John can rot, as she said. So, AJ has had a complicated relationship with him since high school. I know this can't be easy, even if he was an animated piece of evil dog shit. She shakes her head, letting blonde curls spill in front of her eyes. Listen, this marriage has been dead for a long time. It was just living in a small town with nowhere else to go. It always felt too hard to get out. I vibes. Her eyes then smiles. Now the marriage is literally dead, and I didn't have to do the murdering, so I guess. Rain interrupts our heart-to-heart by pulling off my nipple, satisfied with a full tummy. Before I can burp her, Rune, who I nearly forgot was there, that boy as stealth holds his hands out for her. I'd like to check her ears if that's okay. When I frown confused, he adds, from the gunshot? And I can burp her and get her back to sleep. Shit, what kind of mother am I that I didn't even consider the effect a gunshot so close to her head would have? I nod and hand her to Rain. Zev, who is still a giant white wolf, appears at the door and hovers near Rune. As they leave my room, the wolf glances at me briefly, then walks away. I gracelessly shove my breast back into my shirt and sigh as AJ narrows her eyes. You gonna tell me what the hell is going on now? For real? Who are these guys? I inwardly wince, not wanting to lie, but knowing I must. For reasons I already told you. They were on their way to a medical convention when... Shut your lying mouth, B. Look, I know I've never been as smart as you. Still hear the same dumb blonde jokes from the idiots and assholes who were saying that shit in high school, so I'm not delusional about how clever I am. But, of all people, I'm not as stupid as I look. Her eyes narrow and I see the lifetime of pain and disappointment hidden in them. A lifetime of living up to the very low expectations everyone had for her. I want to argue to tell her none of that is true, but I won't insult her intelligence. I was a musical prodigy in a tiny town with no competition. Set me up to be some kind of weird local mascot. I could do no wrong. I was pretty sure, but I wasn't AJ's level of pretty. Instead, I was the smart one, with all the talent. She was the blonde bombshell who filled out early. Her nickname in middle school was Jailbait. Her family life was shit, so she had no support. I became her family, with my grandparents doing what they could for her. But nothing we did could shake this town from their prejudices. It's no wonder she never left John. She had nowhere else to go. I'm the only person in Rowley who's ever loved her back, and I was gone for half a decade. So I make a decision I hope I won't regret. And I tell her everything. She is completely silent through it all. The only sign that she's still listening is the occasional widening of her eyes. When I'm done, we sit in silence for a long minute, both of us absorbing the absurdity of my tale. Saying it all out loud does nothing to make this situation sound saner. If anything, I feel like I'm in an alternate reality. So Zev is the werewolf, Rune is the Fae, and Darius is the vampire? She asks finally. I blink. Yes. She nods. Makes sense. I vibe with that. I blink again. You a vibe with that? At first I wasn't sure if Rune or Darius was the vampire. They both have a bit of that energy, but I for sure knew Zev was a werewolf the moment I met him. What the hell are you going on about? I ask. When you met him? AJ sighs like she's trying to explain something basic to a child. I don't know how you didn't know what they were the moment they walked into the bar. B. It was super obvious. You think I bought any part of that story about them going to a medical convention together? She rolls her eyes. I have read Enough books and seen enough TV shows to know the real deal when I meet it. First of all, no normal men are that incredibly hot unless their last names are Hemsworth. Second, I could smell it on them. Now my eyes are surely bugging out of my freaking skull. You could smell it on them. AJ, what does that even mean? My best friend shrugs, all casual like. I dunno. They didn't smell human. She glances at me sharply, her perfect little nose scrunching in disgust. Speaking of mama, when did you last bathe? It's not even a question. Just a clear testament to my current hygiene. And she's not wrong, so I don't argue when she drags me to the bathroom and begins running the tub. Strip down. It ain't nothing I haven't already seen. We need to clean you up before we go deal with the mess my dead husband left. She's so matter-of-fact about it all, I feel equally relieved and confused. I the only one surprised by the presence of the supernatural in our world? And what will the sexies say when they find out AJ knows? I worry Darius will try his mind tricks with her, and no one is messing with my girl's brain if I can help it. AJ hums as she works, adding bath salts and bubbles, and when I finally sink into the hot water, I moan in pleasure. My body truly feels like it's been put through a military boot camp. Everything hurts, and I don't even care if baths are recommended after birth or not. Feels too good to be bad for me. Plus, my new bath came with jets which work perfectly to massage out some of my aches and pains as I soak. AJ washes my hair for me, bless her, and once I'm done and dressed in fresh clothes, I feel like a whole new person, ready to face whatever awaits me on the other side of my bedroom door, more or less. Also, I need my baby back. Being apart from her is strange after carrying her in me for so long. My body doesn't feel complete without her. I glance at the clock and see it's already afternoon. The day is slipping away, soon we'll have to light candles because it doesn't seem like the power is coming back by tonight. Thank God for the gas water heater. I can hear the three sexies bickering as we walk into the living room together, though the scene that awaits us is not what I'm expecting. This has nothing to do with her, Rune says. He's sitting in a rocking chair, holding Rain so tenderly my heart nearly melts. Darius and Zev are playing chess in the corner, which is strange because I thought they hated each other, and I'm very certain I don't own a chessboard. It's also strange that Zev can transform from wolf to human and immediately become lust-worthy again. It certainly has something to do with her, Darius says, not bothering to look at the Fae as he studies his next move on the chessboard. She died trying to sort out this prophecy, and now the three of us are here just as she foresaw. Darius looks over at Rune now. You think that's a coincidence? Zev clears his throat. I think we should discuss this later. Discuss what later? I ask when it's clear they won't keep talking like I'm not in the room. Nothing important, Zev says with a grimace. Just digging up old bones that should stay buried. Speaking of bones and being buried, what did you do with? I was about to say the body, but I glance at AJ to see how she's doing first. The body, she finishes for me. Where's that asshole's body? Turns out my girl is holding her shit together better than I could have imagined. It also turns out John's body is gone. It's like it never happened. The floors are spotless, the ceiling is repaired. Even the smell of burnt gunpowder is gone. The room now smells like cinnamon and apples from something boiling in a cast iron pot over the fire. Darius, who was just sitting across from Zev, is now standing before us in a blink. Stop doing that, I say. Walk like a normal person unless it's absolutely necessary. He narrows his dark eyes but nods. We have handled the situation. Then he glances at AJ. All that remains is taking care of her.
I gripa his hand harder.
I've told her everything. There's nothing to take care of. She's in the know and it's gonna stay that way. Zev growls under his throat and Rune looks up from the baby, but doesn't make a move to intervene. Darius frowns. That won't be possible. The more people who know, the more dangerous this situation becomes for the child and you. Before I can argue with him, his eyes begin to glow a faint silver and he speaks to AJ in a hypnotic voice. You saw nothing and heard nothing. Your last memory is being downstairs at the bar. There was no gunshot and you don't know what happened to your husband. AJ blinks, then begins to laugh. Oh, this must be some vampire mind voodoo shit, right? I knew that was real. Yeah, sorry buddy. Doesn't work on me. Darius' face hardens and Rune chuckles under his breath. Darius tries again. You will forget everything that happened. AJ shakes her head. Sorry, not sorry, dude. But A for effort. Looks like you've lost your touch, Rune says, amused. Zev stalks over, his muscles flexing like he's on the prowl. He sniffs at AJ, who doesn't seem to find this weird at all. Zev's green eyes widen in.
Surprise.
Seems like this one isn't human. Chapter 7. I'm shocked, confused, and conflicted. On the one hand, it's a relief to know AJ's mind isn't open for vampire business. On the other, my best friend for as long as I can remember, the godmother to my only child, the one person in this world I can trust isn't human? What am I supposed to do with that information? What? I ask Zev, ready to throw a massive fit if he doesn't elaborate. Yeah, what?
Ayekes.
My head snaps to her, every sense I can control focused on studying her thoughts, expressions, and movements. I've always been able to read AJ's tells, knowing when she lied about where she spent the night, what was going on with her dad, which boy she was making out with. Throughout all of that, at no point did I think, hang on, I wonder if she's lying about being the same species as me. Even as I look her over, getting close enough to take a discreet sniff and see if I can smell whatever Zev smelled, I definitely cannot. It keeps her eyes on the werewolf. What do you mean I'm not human? Bernie, what's he saying? AJ finally looks at me and sees how freaked out I am. Are you? Bernie, are you freaking serious? Do you not think I'm a person? The look of disbelief on her face makes me wonder if I am being a little crazy about this. We've been having sleepovers since we were like 5. We've gone skinny dipping 1,000 times. She's not lying, but I'm not sure if anatomy is the defining human factor. After all, I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about the anatomy of my visiting sexies, and I don't want those fantasies to be dashed right now. Why didn't you fall under the spell? I'll believe whatever you say, but I need you to help me understand. She looks at me, then at Zev, then back in Darius, who's still pretty steamed about having his mental advances rebuffed. I mean, I don't know. All he did was tell me to forget shit, and it's like, why? So you're a gorgeous vampire I don't have to hand you the damn keys to. My mind. The logic doesn't win me over, but analytics have never meant much in our relationship. Still, I need a second opinion. Zev, I ask, still wanting an explanation from the doctor with canine smelling powers. Humans have a bitter smell, he explains, eyes wandering over AJ. The toxins from your body, the harmful chemicals your brains produce, the scent is almost overwhelming. He walks back to AJ, very much invading her personal space as he places his nose at the base of her neck and inhales deeply. She doesn't fight it at all, instead placing her hands on his hips to steady herself as she tilts her head to the side and gives Zev better access. From the way they're standing, you wouldn't know AJ's husband died 20 minutes ago, and Zev's the one who killed him. As Zev takes in whatever otherworldly pheromone my friend's producing, he keeps his eyes locked with mine. For the briefest second I imagine standing where AJ is, Zev's face next to mine, his breath on my neck. A warm shiver runs through me and I shake my head to snap out of it. Zev steps back, his gaze returning to the woman he just inhaled. She has no such smell. You may have human blood, but there's more to you than that. I need a break from this new reality, so I cross the room to take my baby back from Rune. She might be less than a day old, but she feels like the one constant I've got in life now that I know AJ is an alien or a bird or a pile of crabs wearing a human suit. Darius comes in hot, wanting answers like the rest of us, but also with a personal bone to pick since AJ beat him in a game of Mentalist. Where are you from? I'm from Rowley, idiot. Her immediate snark is so common for people in this area it makes me think either Zev can't handle the smell of New Englanders or I've grown up amongst non-humans. Frankly, both options sound plausible. Rune's been quiet to this point, observing with a blank face. When he stands and strides over to AJ, Zev and Darius clear the way almost deferentially.
I senza enigmatic.
He speaks with a quiet authority. It's a side of Rune I hadn't seen until this point. He stares into AJ's eyes while describing her to us. She attracts clearly. There's fluidity, grace, and fire. That must be the human side. Zev and Darius join the Fae, the three of them all standing inches from AJ, whose body is tense but unmoving. My mind drifts again to a quick body swap, placing myself in the middle of that sexy circle, but I push the thought out, for fear of fainting. It's on the father's side. Darius speaks barely above a whisper. How do you know? Asks Zev. It's the first time I've seen the werewolf seek knowledge from another, and it adds another layer to his intelligent charm. Because if the trait came from her mother, Darius says, turning away from AJ, to show his inspection has concluded, she'd know. Rune picks up the sentence where Darius left off. She had no example of who she was. No role model. Hey Blondie, maybe stop talking shit about my mom. AJ's heart is in the right place even if she misses the point. I've still got no fewer than a million questions, but the sexies seem pretty content with this reasoning. AJ's a nymph, not on her mom's side, case closed. I guess? Hang on, I finally chime in, not ready for this conversation to move to the next point. How many nymphs and wolf people and friggin', I don't know, orcs are living around me? Or is AJ and AJ's dad, are they the only ones? Certainly not the only ones, Zev answers, reclaiming his role as the smartest man in the room. But there are very few. The werewolf walks into the attached kitchen, taking a glass and filling it with water from the sink. A small number of earthlings aren't human, he continues, many concentrated in this area. What in Rowley?
I asks.
I can hear from the tenor of her voice that she's not into the idea of other non-humans living in her town. She doesn't want anyone cheapening her nymphness. Your world has a long history with paranormals, Rune explains. Centuries ago, when witches sought refuge in this region. Quiet, Rune, Darius says with a roll of his eyes. You sound like a tired professor. Someone had to pay attention during seminars, Prince Darius. Rune fires back. Hang on, I say, not wanting the seminar detail to slip through the cracks. You two went to school together? All three of us, Zev says, walking over with his glass and joining the conversation. We have a backstory that predates your country, Bernie. That's right, Darius says, a menacing look in his eyes. Our friendship started lifetimes ago, or at least one lifetime. We don't need to have this conversation now, Rune says, his anger starting to boil over. Then when? Darius asks. Generations have passed. When will you feel comfortable talking about Kara's death? Or are you happy to silently blame me until the kingdoms collapse? A hush takes over the room, each man staring daggers at the others. It would appear that the sexies not only have history but some heavy history. Later, Zev says. You deserve the conversation, Darius, but not right now. And with that, the werewolf turns to AJ and shocks us all by throwing the water from his glass at her face. What the you son of a bitch? As mad as AJ looks, she's too startled to act on her anger, staying put while staring daggers at Zev. Darius moves over to look at AJ. Rune also looks from her face to the floor around her, giving the scene of the crime a thorough inspection. Interesting, Darius says. Quite, Rune agrees. Water nymph, Zev announces. More like beat your ass with a tire iron nymph, you piece of I cut her off in part so she won't start a fight with three superpowered beings, but also because of the sight before me. She might be livid, but AJ is completely dry. In front of her there's a perfect ring of water, like she had a force field that repelled it, and save a few drops on her clothes kept her from getting wet. I point to the floor and she follows my finger, noticing the water and then putting her hands to her face. Why'd you miss? She asks Zev, who smiles in response. Because you're a water nymph, he responds in an oddly reassuring tone. You control the water around your body just like you can control men. At that, both AJ and I burst into laughter. Attract, seduce, allure, maybe. But control? If AJ could actually control men, her life would have been way different. I'll give you the water gag, she says, looking from Zev to me and then back to her assailant. But I've got no power over men. If anything, it's the other way around. Do you live near the water? Darius asks, a hint of annoyance in his voice at having to teach someone about why they could dodge his mind tricks. Yeah, dumbass, the ocean's like 5 miles from here. Can you see it from your home? If Darius sounded annoyed earlier, he's now fully vexed. AJ thinks, though she knows the answer. No, not no. But why does that matter? Also, plenty of people have thrown beer in my face and it hasn't, bounced off me. You don't have power over fluids and just a minimal control over the water near your body, Zev clarifies. I also imagine you relinquished your power
Over men.
What? When? Why? Her string of questions showcases how little either of us understand what's being said. If you don't believe in your own strength, Darius cuts in. You turn what should be a power into a weakness. It's a very backhanded compliment, and I think AJ takes it as such. She might have let guys walk all over her up to this point in her life, but if she actually starts to believe in herself, she could put a stop to it now. But, Darius continues, a nymph in the house only complicates things further. He steps toward her, mouth open, teeth sharpening with each step. I'd like to know what everyone proposes we do. How about this? I say, putting my foot down before this conversation gets further out of hand. This is my house and you three are the entire complication. So why don't you go down to the bar, clean a little, talk things over, sit on the stools and try to look normal? With the power out and nothing to do at home, people will start showing up soon, and I'd love it if you refrained from killing anyone else today. I look at AJ, still weirded out by her not being human, but nevertheless taking a lot of comfort in her presence. I need a shot of Jameson and a cry on a shoulder, and I know she'll help with both. AJ and I are going to have a quick talk and then we'll join you. I finish, trying not to leave room for any follow-up questions. The sexies seem content, or are at least eager to discuss the new situation. They move out of the apartment, with Darius being the last to go, his eyes
Lingering on I.
As soon as he closes the door, she turns to me with a twinkle in her eye. Don't think I've ever seen before. Can you believe this shit? I'm not human. I don't know why this makes her so ecstatic, but I guess it's better than her being devastated. Are you sure though? I'm not ready to buy into all this, especially because we don't know what any of it means. Can she breathe underwater? Talk to fish? Or just stay dry without an umbrella? I mean, not really, AJ says, and I take solace in her at least being a little apprehensive. But that water trick was something, and I'm riding a wave of dead husband endorphins. Right. That's still a thing. At some point when we know what's going on and, well, what she is, we'll need to address the issue of the murdered and now officially missing John. What I do know, AJ continues, is that a sexy vampire tried to get in my head, and then a wicked hot werewolf sniffed my neck and told me I'm not human. Who am I to argue with those facts? I stroll into my bedroom while considering her words. It's time for Rain to have a proper sleep in her crib before I have to feed her again. My breasts are already starting to feel heavy again. AJ follows me in, her face going soft at the sight of my daughter. So, I say as I lay Rain down. What now? What do we do? There's a quiver in my voice as I speak, and I know a monsoon of tears are on the way. I'm overwhelmed by everything and need to cry out some stress before I can use my brain or body again. AJ recognizes all of this, of course, and brings me in for a hug just as the weeping begins. I bury my head into her shoulder to stifle my sobs, and she leads me out of the bedroom away from Rain. First off, let's get downstairs and drink some whiskey. As expected, AJ's comfort game is unassailable. Second, let's remember who has the dead husband and yet is for some reason doing all the consoling. It's a fair point, and one that forces me to break from crying long enough to let out a laugh. You're right, I say as I dry my eyes with my sleeves. I've got a beautiful baby and run a halfway house for hotties from other realms. And that includes you, apparently. It's a pretty good setup, she says. Even so, I'll kick your ass if you stay in Rowley longer than is absolutely necessary. AJ, I have to run. Nope. She cuts me off before I can launch into my speech about being responsible for the family business.
No bats.
You have a gift, it got you out of this place, and as soon as we deal with whatever it is we're dealing with, you gotta go, girl. We share a brief moment, speaking no words, just smiling gratefully at each other. Thank God for true friends. Okay, I say, feeling a bit of a second wind coming on. I've got to figure out how to run this bar and, well, I've got to figure out everything. You, AJ starts, looking at me like I'm nuts. Don't have to do anything. I was going to step in for you after the baby came, and that doesn't change just because she's here early. I knew AJ would help when Rain arrived, but I was always hesitant to put this on her plate. She's got, well, had enough to deal with in her personal life, and I can't really afford to pay her beyond what the customers tip. Morgan's is a small bar in a small town, meaning we'll always have enough customers to stay open and never quite make enough money to pay all our bills. The fact that my family has kept this place going for multiple generations is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, I'm not going to turn down your help, but I completely understand if You need to go off and think or cry or just fire a gun into the sky for a while. Nope, I'm good, AJ says with a shrug. I don't want to leave you, don't mind being around them, and I'll happily stuff some tips in my bra. She flashes a
Sexy smile.
I'm going to control the shit out of these human men. She undoes a button on her shirt to show a little more cleavage. What a strange new version of the same old AJ. Great, I say as I turn back to my room. I'm going to watch my baby sleep for a while, then we'll come meet you downstairs, nympho. AJ bounds off to the bar, not at all bothered by the new moniker. I step into my room and catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror over my dresser. Looks like the bath did me good. Face is still a little puffy and I'm not even going to think about my midsection, but I'm not the monster I felt like earlier this morning. A cold breeze ripples over my skin, alerting me to an open window on the other side of my bed. What kind of horrible mother leaves a window open in the dead of winter next to a newborn? Even if she's only alone for like 5 minutes, she could still. I stop dead in my tracks, standing between the window and the crib. The empty crib. My baby's gone. Chapter 8. I look out the window, my heart pounding so hard in my chest I fear my ribs will break. Panic crowds my mind, filling it, not so much with words but horrifying images of all the things that could be happening to my baby. Outside I see only sheets of snow blurring the town I know so well, covering it all in a blanket of white that earlier looked ethereal and beautiful, but now has a sinister undertone. Rain is hungry, cold. She needs me. And someone has taken her. Fear jolts me into action, turning to rage in a blink, and I raise my voice as I race downstairs as fast as my still healing body can go. Which one of you assholes took my goddamn child? I scream, storming into the bar so hard the door hinge comes undone. The building seems to shake, startling me for a moment. The storm outside must be worse than I thought. The 3 sexies and AJ all turn to look at me, and none of them are holding my baby. Darius is the first to blink over to me, and I don't even reprimand him for using his super speed this time. What has happened? He asks, his eyes burning into my soul with their dark intensity. She's gone, I say, tears springing up as a wave of emotion threatens to drown me. Rain is gone. And then Darius is gone, presumably upstairs to investigate. I don't even know. My stupid human eyes can't track his movements. I cover my face, sobs shaking me, and feel strong arms wrap around me. We will find her. Trust us on this, Rune says, and his words hold power that seem to calm me despite myself. With a howl, Zev, already back in wolf form, leaps across the bar and crashes out a window. Dude is really going to have to learn to use doors, but that's a lesson for less urgent times. Aren't you going to help search? AJ asks Rune, who is still holding me close, like I might fall apart if he wasn't there to keep me together, and maybe that's not far from the truth. I must stay to protect Bernie. We do not know what we're dealing with yet, though I have my suspicions. If you're staying with B, then I'll go. I push against Rune's chest just enough to create a bit of space between us. Need to clear my head, and whether it's his magic or natural magnetism, I can't do that when he's holding me. I'm going too, I say. Not a chance, B, AJ says with a frown. It's freezing out there. You just gave birth. You'll be no use to Rain if you get sick or dead. AJ glances at Rune, who nods. But though her words make sense on some level, it feels wrong for me to stay behind doing nothing while my child is in danger. As if reading my mind, AJ reaches for my hand. I know this goes against everything inside you. You're a badass, no question, but you just had a baby. Most women are still in the hospital recovering and getting fed sad, alcohol-free Jello shots. You shouldn't be dealing with any of this. Let me help. Werewolves and vampires are the best trackers you can find, Rune says. And however else I might feel about Darius and Zev, they are powerful even amongst their kind. They will find your child. And I've never been sick a day in my life, AJ says, and with a start I realize that's true. I never thought about it before, how odd that was. Turns out the cold never bothered me anyway. She shrugs with an impish smile. Snow is just water in a different form, and apparently that's my jam. So I'm gonna go out there and see what I can do. She kisses my cheek. I'll be back soon. Then she glances at Rune. Get her a shot, make her rest, and protect her with your life, or I will carve out your liver and feed it to that wolf out there. Duly noted. Rune says with a glint in his silver blue eyes. I watch helplessly as my best friend heads outside, into the blizzard, and hiccup softly as a new wave of emotion overwhelms me. My breasts feel about ready to burst, and when I look down I notice I'm leaking. Fantastic. As if I needed one more problem right now. Rune takes my hand and guides me to the bar, indicating I should sit. My legs are wobbly, my head is spinning, and now that the adrenaline is wearing off, the ache in my body from my recent birthing experiences returning, so I take the seat normally reserved for Joe and marvel at how odd feels to be on this side of things. Rune moves around like he belongs back there, pulling out 2 glasses and the finest whiskey we have. He pours a generous amount into each tumbler, then takes something from a hidden pocket and sprinkles it into mine. It makes the liquor sparkle like liquid gold. I take the glass, staring at the mesmerizing drink. What did you do to it? And honestly, I shouldn't be drinking this while nursing. A tiny bit once a week is fine according to Dr. Internet, but more than that could be harmful for Rain. Saying her name brings up a surge of terror once again, and Rune comes around the bar to sit next to me. He takes my free hand, and at the touch of his skin, that calmness I felt before flows over me. That powder will change how your body perceives the alcohol. It will excrete it more slowly, breaking it down and keeping it from passing through your milk. I've also added something that will help you recover more quickly from the birth. It's quite safe, I assure you. My eyes widen. We could make a lot of money selling your magical drinks. Here, I say, sipping at the concoction. It dances on my tongue and burns, going down in the kind of smooth, rich way only the best whiskey can offer. Instantly I feel my body melt a bit. Every nerve is still on fire, worried for my child, wondering what's happening, what the 3 of them are out there doing. But the drink and Rune's presence take the edge off, which part of me resents. I have a right, a responsibility even, to be hysterical and in full-on rage mode right now. At the same time, AJ is right. I'm no use to Rain if I'm sick. And I don't want to feed her angry milk. Is that a thing? Don't even know anymore, but I don't want to risk it. So I continue sipping the magic whiskey as my gaze locks with Rune's pale blue eyes. You don't look like a fae, I say at last. At least not how I imagined. His lips twitch in a smile. I appear how I must in this realm to not stand out too much. Would you like to see my true form? I suck in a breath and nod. With a flick of his wrist, his appearance shifts. Subtle, but I take in each detail. The irises of his eyes are larger, more luminescent. His face is more defined, his skin so perfect it doesn't look real. His hair glows silver, like moonlight. But the most striking difference is his ears. They are longer, with pointed tips. You're beautiful, I say with a shaky breath, temporarily overwhelmed by the vision of him. He lifts a hand to caress my cheek, his gaze consuming me. Would that you could see yourself through my eyes, to truly know real beauty. His words send a shiver down my spine, but the temporary distraction is short-lived as my mind crashes back to why we're sitting here. When a new tear slides down my cheek, Rune uses the pad of his finger to wipe it away. They will be back soon. With Rain. How can you be so sure? I just am, he says, as if that explains everything. The cost of failure is too high. Tell me what's really going on here, I demand. Since these guys walked into my bar, it's been madness. The irony that this is the first pause we've had to actually talk is not lost on me. Your child is at the crux of a prophecy that will have a profound impact on all of us. Human, vampire, werewolf, fae, and all others. It is said she is the last witch that will be born, the last one of your kind who can save us all from extinction. My kind? I ask, sure the magical alcohol is now playing with my hearing. Yes, Rune says softly. You're more special than you know, Bernie. In time, this will all make sense, and you'll understand the true importance of your beautiful girl. Is that why she's been kidnapped? Because of this stupid prophecy? I ask, my hand clutching the tumbler so hard it might crack as my anger returns more powerful than before. Once again the bar shakes like a mini earthquake, though we don't get earthquakes here. My baby is out in a storm so powerful it's shaking buildings. I'm beyond angry. I'm ready to tear into whoever did this the same way Darius and Zev tore into John. We are not the only ones who seek her, Rune says. Fantastic, I say, downing the last of my whiskey. As if having 3 Supernatural alphas showing up demanding my child wasn't bad enough.
Rune frowns.
I'm truly sorry our presence has been so disruptive to you. Will admit, I never quite thought about your role in the prophecy. For thousands of years this edict has been passed down in my family that we would be ready to retrieve the one who could save us. It has made us all a bit myopic in our approach. I can't be like, sure it's totally fine you want to steal my kid, but also, I don't know what I would have done if they hadn't been around to help deliver. So shit. Right now I just want her back in my arms. The rest can wait. But know this, none of you are taking her away from me. She's mine. Pause, fighting a sudden urge to overshare. Then give in when I realize it. Would be nice to have someone to talk to about the things weighing on my heart. I hold up my glass and Rune reaches for the whiskey, pouring me another and sprinkling in his magic glitter once again. I didn't want her at first, I confess finally, after taking another drink. She wasn't planned, obviously, and I gave serious consideration to. I pause. Drinking again. So hard to think about. To talk about. To have her or not. Have her was the most difficult choice I've ever made. I was in a master's program at Juilliard. When Rune looks at me confused, I explain. It's a music school in New York. Very prestigious, hard to get into it. His eyes soften. I'm not surprised you attained that level of acclaim. Your music is truly magical. His words send a thrill through me which I attempt to ignore. I had opportunities coming out my ass, I say. But I guess the prospect of success made me stupid. I had an affair with one of my teachers, and ended up pregnant. He wanted me to have an abortion and I was ready to. Having a baby would derail my career, my life. Everything I worked so hard for. But on the day of the appointment I couldn't go through with it. I stayed at school as long as I could while pregnant, but then my grandfather died and I knew it was all coming to an end. My life, my dreams. Everything. I swallow my tears along with more whiskey. And then she was born and I looked into her perfect elfin face and I knew I'd made the right choice. Would give up everything for her. Everything.
I gler at Rune fierslig.
She is mine to protect. She is mine to raise. And that is non-negotiable. But I don't expect you to understand. I turn away, overcome by my own emotions, hating myself for talking tough about my parenting moments after my baby was stolen from her room. Rune reaches for my hand. Bernie, I would like to show you something with your permission. Show me what? I ask, returning my gaze to his. Close your eyes, he says, as he places his hands on both sides of my face and leans in until our foreheads are touching. The gesture feels deeply intimate, and I inhale his scent of wildflowers and cinnamon. I understand. More than you know. His fingers heat up against my skin and my inner mind glows silver. Then everything changes. I am standing in a forest at night, a gentle breeze tickling the hair on my neck and swaying the branches around me. Dozens of small glowing bugs buzz in the air, casting silver light against the iridescent flowers spread over a vast valley that starts at the edge of the trees. The sound of insect life scurrying under layers of leaves and mulch fills my ears, and when I inhale, I smell a faint sweetness from the flowers and the musky scent of the rich green foliage surrounding me. Everything feels so damn real, it's like being in the most advanced, futuristic virtual reality game. Come this way, Rune says, startling me with his presence. He reaches for my hand and a spark of energy dances on my skin when our palms touch. He looks down at me, a look of surprise and something else on his face before he schools his expression to neutral. Our fingers link and I let him lead me through the trees towards the sound of running water, of waterfalls and rushing rivers. A man stands at the edge of the water, placing flowers into a narrow boat. I gasp, tightening my grip on Rune's hand when I realize the man we are watching is him. He leans to whisper into my ear. This is the night my wife and child died. I'm saying goodbye. His voice is choked with emotion. She was the last of our kind to get pregnant and give birth. We hoped it was a sign that the plague on our people was ending, that the prophecy we feared wasn't coming to pass, that perhaps our combined royal lineage could break this curse. But alas, the child came early and was stillborn. The birth took her life in the process, and there was nothing I could do with any of my magic to save either of them. We watched silently, our grip on each other's hands tightening as the rune of the past pushes the boat into the water. Once it's moving down the river, he raises an arrow and lights it with a blue fire. then draws his bow and releases. His aim is true, and the boat alights in glowing flames that fill the night sky. He falls to his knees as his wife and child sink, his cries of anguish raw and visceral. The rune by my side looks down at me again, his silver eyes glistening with emotion. I know your fear, your pain, your worry. It is mine as well. It is what brought us all here. He holds up a hand before I can say anything. I'm not trying to justify taking your child from you. I just wanted you to understand why. There's an argument to be had, but I see the point Rune's making. It's just not a conversation I know how to have right now after what I just bore witness to. So I changed the subject. I know so little about you three. Can you take me back further? To your time with Darius and Zev. A fleeting smile passes over the Fae's face, quickly replaced by a look of longing. I'm sorry, he says, his eyes glistening with unshed tears as he stares into a past I cannot enter. I'm afraid my heart cannot bear revisiting the memory of another loved one lost to me. There are times to question and times to be silent, and I know this is the latter. As much as I want to know more, and even as much as I feel I have the right to know more, sometimes we must choose to be kind over being right. Give him what little solace a squeeze of my hand can provide. I'm pulled out of the trance by the sound of the bar door slamming open, my heart heavy and my mind thick. Rune is now sitting next to me just as he was, but his eyes are still full of the pain I just witnessed. As powerful as our moment was, my mind switches gears immediately when I see AJ race in, a small bundle in her arms. Darius follows, dragging a man with a hood over his head and his hands tied behind his back, a large white wolf nipping at his heels. Rain's okay, says AJ, handing my child to me. I grip Rain so tight, probably squeezing air out of her tiny lungs, but I can't help myself. Now that she's back, I finally let myself consider the thought I pushed back against so hard. I might have never seen her again. I'm so sorry, baby, I say to her. Mama won't ever let you go again. And this, AJ says, reminding me there's more to this story, is the bastard who took her. I glare as she pulls off his hood. And then I gasp. Kyle. The deadbeat who's always passed out in my bar? The man who's known my family for years. That's the person who kidnapped my baby? What the hell alternate reality have I stumbled into? Chapter 9. I stare into Carl's familiar face, snow sticking to his ever-present stubble. His large hazel eyes are full of fear and confusion. The fear I understand, because he should know he's about to die. The confusion doesn't make sense. Carl. I let the word hang, carrying all the weight of a full sentence. Bernie. Carl responds in kind, and I listen closely to his tone, hoping it will explain his inexplicable behavior. Doesn't. Darius, lacking the patience to read the man's facial expression, slams him against the bar, holding his face down on the copper surface. Who are you? Darius snarls, his sharp teeth centimeters from Carl's pulsing jugular vein. Who sent you for the child? Carl keeps his eyes trained on me, ignoring the vampire's questions. Bernie, you know me. I thought I did. I snap back. Seems like he's got some point to make. Something to say in his defense, but he's not getting there fast enough. These guys, they aren't what they seem. If Carl thought that generic understatement was going to win any points, he's sorely mistaken. Neither are you. My yell startles Rain and makes her cry, but AJ is at my side immediately with a blanket. In a surprisingly swift motion, I wrap the baby, pop out a boob, begin to feed, and then return my fiery stare to Carl. Strut toward the bar, feeling incredibly emboldened with these three powerful men backing me up. Have you been plotting this? Pretending to be passed out in my bar so you'd know when the baby came? Of course the answer will be no. Carl's too much of a deadbeat drunk to formulate a plan and then carry it. Yes. The word doesn't come from Carl's mouth, but rather from Rune's. The two look at each other, reading one another's faces and movements, before Carl looks back at me. His silence confirms the Fae's assessment. You don't understand, Bernie. Another cliché one-liner, but he's not wrong. In a day where every single thing has been strange and stupefying, this is somehow the most unexpected event so far. A regular at the family bar for years, a guy who could never manage to drive himself home at the end of the night, a person everyone in town knows stole my baby from my window on the second floor in the dark. In a blizzard. I'm trying to help you, Carl says earnestly. We're trying to save your baby. Who? Darius asks, stepping menacingly close to Carl's face. Is we? Zev circles around the captive man, sniffing. Rune grabs Carl by the wrist, inspecting his hand. I'm not sure what answers they're looking for, but they're looking intently. Suddenly Zev growls. At first I think something about Carl has angered him, but then I see his wolf eyes have moved to the front door. I follow his look, and seconds later the doorknob starts to turn. Jesus, who's here to steal my baby now? The door opens about an inch, then slams shut and locks itself. As my frazzled brain tries to remember if the bar door has always made its own decisions, I see the vampire's hand extended in that direction and realize he did the closing and locking. It'll take a while for me to get used to all the magic. AJ moves quietly to a window at the front of the bar and peeks out. It's Joe. And Frank, she says, then adds with a smile. They brought flashlights so you can't make them leave when the candles burn out. Don't let them in, Darius says. There are too many bodies in here as it is. He makes a good point, but sending these guys home almost guarantees they'll come back 15 minutes later with Frank's wife to check up on me. And if she shows up and starts talking, I doubt the most powerful magic in the universe could get her to stop. They won't go without a fight, I explain. Bernie. A voice comes from outside right on cue. You okay in there? As Joe and Frank, we brought some baby toys, pacifiers and shit. Sweet, stupid, drunk old men. When I look back to Darius, he's gone, as is Carl, and yet I still hear his voice as if he's inches away. Where can I take this intruder? The invisible Darius asks. Wait, I interrupt, too confused to let this go. Where are you? He's right where you last saw him. Rune places his hand gently on my shoulder as he speaks, washing that wave of calm over me. God, I need him touching me always. I've created an illusion along the back of the bar. Darius, gag him now while we let these people in. Rune looks at me with a sweetness in his eyes, and I'm truly starting to feel he's on my side. We'll run business as usual if that's what you think is best. Though may I suggest closing early so you can get some rest. I'll be back in a moment, the invisible Darius says. I'm going to stitch this cretin to the ceiling upstairs. I don't really know what that means, but I'm also sure he isn't lying. Burn. Joe calls again from outside. It would never cross his mind that the bar might be closed, especially because my grandparents had the place open every day except Christmas. Rune takes a seat at the bar, assuming the role of a customer, I guess. I comes over and takes the now sleeping Rain, who fell asleep while feeding. She's just so goddamn cute. I walk over to the door, a little jealous. I can't just unlock it from 30 feet away like Darius. I open up and present Joe and Frank with a big fake smile, even as a gust of cold nearly knocks me on my ass. Hey guys. Sorry, the wind blew the door open earlier so I locked it. Come on. In. I turn away to lead them inside, but don't hear footsteps behind me. When I look back, they're still frozen in place, staring at the far end of the bar. Follow their eye line and quickly realize the hesitation. Oh yeah, that. I got a dog. I wish I'd had a conversation with Zev about how to explain his presence, but it's too late for that. Now I'm a dog owner. When people come to my bar, I have a husky the size of a small horse. What a great way to drum up business. Where'd you get it? Asks Frank, looking legitimately afraid to step foot in the bar. 'Cause that ain't no dog. That's a wolf. Maybe it has some mix in it, but he's totally tame, I say as Zev looks up at me and growls under his breath. I want to kick him as a reminder to watch his manners, but that would definitely look bad. As to where I got him, it's a long story, Frank. Now get your ass inside so I can close the door, and I'll tell you once you've had a beer and loosened up. They do as they're told, giving me a few seconds to start thinking of a husky the size of a huge wolf buying story that can't be verified. Fortunately, by the time they reach the bar, they see AJ and what she's holding. Joe spins back toward me. Whoa, Burn. Holy shit. Your baby. Holy shit indeed. It's like every time someone notices Rain, I remember that I'm a brand new mother who should be asleep constantly. Yeah, that's baby Rain, I say, walking back behind the bar to get her from She arrived last night with the help of this guy, Rune. Rune has been sitting at the bar, doing his best to be ignored, but I figure it's less suspicious to open up the introductions now than it is to wait for the guys to ask questions. Joe and Frank size him up. Normally they'd make fun of a clean man with that handsome face, but Rune's obvious size and strength keep the jokes at bay. Plus, they take kindly to anyone who helped me out. Oh yeah, you were here last night, Joe says. Are you you? My tired brain is about to answer, a Fae, but fortunately AJ steps in to save me from myself. He's a doctor. He and another doctor friend are passing through town, thinking of opening up a practice somewhere in Massachusetts. Couldn't have time there. Visit to Morgan's any better. Solid work, AJ. She's clearly better than me at lying on the spot, which makes it even more important to have her around. Where's the other doctor friend? Frank asks. And wait, weren't there 3 guys here last night? I look down at Zev the wolf, wondering how to answer this question. He returns my gaze, and I get a very strange feeling sharing a look with a wolf who I know is not just a wolf. No, just the 2 guys that I remember, I answer, unwittingly locking Zev into wolf form whenever the bar is open. The other guy, Darius, he is... I launch into this sentence before I have any idea of where it's headed, but the bar door swings open and finishes my story. For me. He is here. Darius enters casually, giving me a slight nod and taking a seat by Rune. Watch the 2 lock eyes briefly, and I'm positive they just linked brains, filling each other in on everything missed. When they finish their mind gossip, Darius turns to Joe and Frank, offering a forced smile. Do you gentlemen know Carl? I was speaking with him last night. He said he had some lodging recommendations. Joe and Frank start laughing immediately as I put my hand over my eyes. Eva. Never seen someone so bad at lying to small town folk. Talking to Carl? Joe says with a chuckle. He must have been sleep-talking. Drunken fool. Of course we know Carl, Frank adds. Grew up with his dad. Our grandpas went to war together. Known his family for generations. Joe nods, not going into his family history, even though I'm sure it's similar. Rune and Darius share a knowing look and probably a little mental dialogue that I wish I could hear, despite my earlier insistence that they stay out of my head. With Rain asleep in my arms and my own eyelids feeling like they're made of lead, I decide this is as good a chance as any to duck away for sleep. Eyes quick enough on her feet to answer questions. Rune can create an illusion if necessary, and as long as Darius doesn't lose his cool and rip someone's throat out, we should be fine. I bid my goodnights and grab a candle as I head for the back door. Before I can leave, I sense the familiar feeling of another's words penetrating my mind. I'm sorry to enter your thoughts and break my promise, Bernie, Darius says, but I want you to know the intruder is bound to the kitchen ceiling with unbreakable ropes. You'll be safe upstairs, but perhaps avoid that room. Zev will join you. It's a fair warning, as I for sure would have shit myself if I walked into the kitchen and saw Carl magically roped to the ceiling. I look back at Darius, who now has his eyes trained on the wolf. After a few seconds, Zev rises and clambers up the stairs. I turn back to Darius. Thanks, I think, guessing at how telepathic communication works. You're welcome, I hear in response. I pat Joe on the shoulder, kiss AJ on the cheek, and head upstairs, baffled and amused at the state of my life. My dreams are full of Rune. We're standing in the snow, but everything feels warm. His hands touch every inch of my skin, starting at my shoulders, stroking down my arms, then moving to my torso, rubbing my back at first, then turning me away from him so he can caress my stomach and breasts. Feel him pressed against me, and it's clear we both enjoy the feel of each other's skin. You're beautiful, he whispers in my ear, over and over. I'm in the state of sleep where I know this is a dream, and yet it's as vivid as any I've ever had. His breath tickles my ear, sending shivers down my spine and raising goosebumps on my sensitive flesh. When I turn back to face him, he's naked, his body chiseled and smooth. As I reach down for him, he puts a hand on my shoulder, stopping me. Bernie, he says. Yes, I reply, moving my face to his, eager to taste his lips. Bernie, he repeats, this time a little more forcefully. Bernie, he says a third time, and now the snow drifts away, the white glow morphing into a dim flicker, and I'm suddenly in my bedroom. I bolt up, an immediate sense of panic overtaking me. Where's Rain? Who's dead? What now? Rune sits in front of me, his presence providing an immediate calm. Sure, you're all right. Rain's all right. It's as though he can read my thoughts, which, he probably can. Yikes. How much of that dream was he privy to? What time is it? I ask. How long did I sleep? Where's everyone else? It's morning, Rune says. You finally got some quality rest. Unfortunately. The rest of his sentence is cut off when we hear AJ bounding up the stairs, 2 at a time like she's done since junior high. When she enters the room, I see worry etched on her face. I don't see him out front. No sign of a car either. He must have gone out. The back. What? Who? I'm still groggy and there are too many he's that she could be referring to. A lot of my grogginess dissolves when Darius does his appearing act right next to AJ, nearly causing her to fall in surprise. Zev is trying to catch his scent in the woods, he says to Rune. We saw no prints in the snow. I'm still completely lost, but I think I've got a good guess. Kal. Darius says nothing, though the angry clench of his jaw speaks volumes. I just wrings her hands, confused and alarmed. Rune looks back to me, giving a slight nod. He disappeared. What do you mean disappeared? He just escaped? I thought Darius had. I had. The vampire cuts me off forcefully, a little defensive. And he disappeared. The ropes are all in place, unmoved, unbroken. Human can't escape those bonds. In an instant, Zev the wolf appears at the top of the stairs, and in just as little time Zev in human form stands beside Darius. It happens far too quickly, and by the time I notice he's completely naked, he's already started slipping into a pair of pants. But not before I see everything. No scent, no tracks, no sounds, the half-naked werewolf says, his voice pulling my eyes up from his waistline to his mouth. Darius, what do you mean? I asks. He did escape those bonds, so what are you saying? I can't be sure, Darius starts, choosing his words carefully, but it appears that Carl spends his time in the company of witches. Chapter 10. Awesome, let's bring some witches into the mix, I say sarcastically. My nerves are frayed and I'm definitely using snark to hide that. AJ sees right through me though and reaches for my hand, offering what comfort she can. I anticipated pushback from those who wish to thwart us, Darius says, but I'm surprised the witches are getting involved. I'm not, Rune says calmly. This directly affects all magical races, particularly the witches. If your kind hadn't hunted them out of our world, we might not be in this mess in the first place. Darius bares his teeth and fangs protrude, his eyes darkening even further. Push me too far, Fae, and I'll develop a taste for your blood. Zev studies them both and shakes his head. My kind has the reputation for being hotheads, but I think you're both stealing that title. Please, Darius says. We've seen you at your angriest, Zev, and it's not something either of us can compete with. The werewolf walks over and gets in the vampire's face, forcing me to take a few steps back just in case a fight breaks out. And if your cold, dead heart could make room for emotions, you would have been angry as well. They're back at it again with whatever beef developed during their years at I don't know, magic school. It's like siblings who can't let something go, and as an only child, I'm annoyed enough to put an end to it. Jesus Christ, what are you talking about? Get it out in the open so we don't have to pause every hour for this redundant shit fit. Neither Darius nor Zev looks at me, still locked on each other and fuming. Rune steps forward to speak, putting a hand on Zev as he does so and hopefully delivering some calm to the furious wolf. We learned of this prophecy at the same time centuries back, the Fae says. As it affected each kingdom, the three of us were part of an ancient council that aimed to work with some sense of a common goal. For of us, Darius says, still not turning away from Zev. Yes, there was a fourth, Rune continues, a witch named Kara, a dear friend to us all. Not dear enough, Zev says, leaving no question as to who he's addressing. I look at Darius, a new level of rage on his face. Seems like he needs a chance to speak about this through a mediator, so I ask him the next question. Darius, I say in as gentle a voice as I can muster, what happened? The vampire finally takes his attention off Zev and looks at me. The room immediately feels a shade less hostile. We all work together to translate and understand the prophecy, Darius says, gazing at the wall like his memories are projected there. Kara wanted to work on a spell that might illuminate the meaning of the language. We initially told her not to, that there was too much magic in play, but she insisted, and I was the first to take her side. Zev opens his mouth to speak, but Rune tightens his grip on the wolf's shoulder and silences him. So your friend died? Their silence seems like a pretty solid affirmation. And you were all there when she did whatever she did, and Darius maybe didn't push back as hard as you two would have liked. And instead of talking it out, you've been mad for what, a millennium? More confirming silence. Okay, I say, coming to the end of my usefulness as a paranormal counselor. When they continue staring in silence. I'm glad that got explained. Lot. The tension breaks a little when Rain begins crying, and I feel bad at how happy I am to hear my child fussing. We'll get back to that because right now we need to find Carl. I say, my mind spinning with a plan. Or whoever he's working with, since I'm pretty sure he's not a witch. He's not, Zev says. Witches are exclusively women. Always have been. Huh. That's interesting and slightly unexpected. Okay, so as I said, we need to find him and figure out who he's working with and why they also want my baby. How many magical species will we be fighting to keep her safe? I clutch her more closely, fear and a fierce maternal protectiveness clouding my thinking. If he has magic, he might not be easy to track, Zev says gruffly. As for how many others might be after her, that's hard to say. There are many races, but the witches, werewolves, fae and vampires are the primary. All others are derived from us over the course of thousands of years. So nymphs are like some kind of blend? A magical mutt? I asks. Disappointment clear in her voice. She definitely wanted to be higher on the pyramid. In a manner of speaking, Zev says. But this all happened ages ago. Right. Now we need to formulate a better plan for protecting Rain and Bernie. Agreed, Rune says. Darius nods but says nothing. And who will protect us from you three? I ask, my words thrown like daggers at each of them. Rain finishes feeding and I cover myself and burp her as I stare the three men down. You came here to take her just like Carl. How are you any different? The only reason you're still here is because you're all keeping each other in check. The sexies look at each other with some level of discomfort. It is complicated, Rune says. I know it's complicated, especially after getting insight from Rune, but that doesn't warm me to the idea of someone stealing my child. You all have your reasons for what you're trying to do. So does Carl. And I appreciate that. You're staying and helping. But at the end of the day, why should I trust any of you? You all want the same thing. My baby. And you all see her as a savior to your people without regard for me, or her as a person. Tears sting my eyes and the whole situation crashes into me like a tsunami I can't contain. I turn away so they don't see me cry. I'd like to be alone. Please, can you all leave my room? Before anyone argues it's not safe, I turn back to glare at them. I'll protect Rain and you can all wait in the other room, but I need a freaking minute with my child and myself. Is that too much to ask after all this? I raise my voice for emphasis and Rune especially flinches like I just slapped him, but I can't muster enough energy to care. I feel beaten and bruised after nearly losing my child, knowing it could happen again. I leads the men out, Rune leaving last and closing the door behind him with a sharp click. I lock it, knowing damn well it won't make any difference to men with magical powers and super strength, but it gives me some small semblance of control over an entirely uncontrollable situation. I shuffle over to my bed and crawl into it, pulling the blankets over both myself and my child until it is just the two of us in my mini makeshift fort. She's already fallen back to sleep, content and safe in my arms, and I stare at her for some time wondering what it is that makes her so special. I know what makes her special to me, but why is everyone else in all the worlds after her? And how can I possibly keep her safe against such threats? Eventually, those guys will figure out how to best each other. One of them will take her from me, and I will have no recourse, no way of fighting back. Would die for her, of course I would, and it just might come to that, but I fear my blood is not powerful enough or valuable enough to matter in this battle. This is far beyond the skills of a barmaid turned pianist turned barmaid again. The tears come hard and fast, and I'm solidly wallowing in my own pain when I hear the whir of the electricity coming back to life through the thick comforter. A flicker of light confirms our power has returned. It looks like we'll be back to business as usual, and I'll need to muster my own courage to get my business up and running before I lose that too. I crawl out of bed and use a baby Bjorn to strap Rain to my chest, then I freshen up in the bathroom before returning to the guys in the living room. We've got a lot of prep work to do now that the power's back on. Are you going to help? Everyone nods and follows me silently downstairs. I spend the next several hours giving instructions and teaching everyone what to do. AJ insists she can handle everything, but I need something to keep my body and my mind occupied. The alternative is more wallowing, and I'm not a fan. We clean, prep, and have everything ready when our first customers arrive. Tonight it's all regulars. The power's back and the snow stopped, but tall snowbanks and black ice keep people from venturing far from home, and we've never been good at pulling in tourists anyways. That suits my mood just fine. I don't really want to deal with strangers right now. Everyone who comes in oohs and ahs over the baby, but I refuse any requests to hold her and keep her strapped to my chest all night except when I sneak away to feed or change her. AJ and my new sexy staff do their part. Rune and Darius wash glasses and bus tables while Zev just chills in his wolf body, and by just chills I mean he glues himself to my heels. I swear I nearly trip on him at least 3 times. When we finally close up shop that night, I'm dead on my feet, though the guys look as refreshed as always. Damn them. Rune approaches me with hesitancy as I straighten my back, cracking it in at least 5 painful places. Let me take her and put her to bed, Bernie. You need a break. When I don't answer and instead clutch Rain closer to my chest, Rune lays a hand on me and a rush of warmth and calm flows over me. I jerk away. Stop. Don't manipulate my emotions right now. I get to be pissed. And scared and pissed. He nods. You do. I apologize. I just hate to see you so unhappy. I come from a long line of healers. It is in my blood to want to soothe and help. Forgive me for overstepping. Well, now I feel like part ass, part justified mama bear and 100% exhausted. Rune has been nothing but kind to me and Rain. Tender even. And as I look up the staircase, I wonder if I can even make it with her on my chest. I worked too hard and didn't accept the help that was offered. It's classic Bernian. I usually push through, but my body isn't used to recovering from childbirth. With a sigh and some nervousness, I unclasp the straps and hand the bundle, baby included, to Rune's outstretched arms. His silver blue gaze drops to Rain, and his expression is so gentle, so loving, so full of awe and hurt for what he's lost, that the wall I built around my heart cracks just a little. Go. Before I change my mind. He nods and with fluid speed hastens upstairs. I pause a moment, trying to will my broken body forward, when I feel strong arms lift me up. Zev flashes a cheeky smile. You don't look capable of making it up those stairs, love. Let me help. I'm about to argue, but he's probably right. Everything in my body hurts so much I feel tears coming, though I refuse to let them fall. I will not show weakness, but dear heaven, I could use a bath. Using that magically heightened intuition, Zev carries me to the bathroom and gently places me on the toilet as he runs the hot water. Rune appears with a vial of herbs and dumps it into the bath. It will help with your pain, he says softly. I can see more words unspoken in the depths of his eyes, but he turns to leave. Before I can ask, Zev raises an eyebrow but leaves as well, allowing me to undress in private. As I slink off my clothes and sink into the tub, I groan in pleasure. Worry. For Rain still filters through the relaxation, but the scent of lavender and rose and the feel of my muscles unknotting does a lot to calm my mind. My mind is drifting when a knock at my door pulls me back. Yeah. Zev walks in holding a small jar of oil as I try to strategically place bubbles to allow for some level of modesty, though the werewolf doesn't seem concerned about such things, and maybe it's just my prudish Puritan culture getting in the way of things. Your back was bothering you. I thought I might offer my massage services to alleviate a bit of that discomfort, he says, his gaze taking in the parts of my body that are still exposed and lingering on the parts that aren't. His words send a promise directly to my body, which responds before my mind even gets a chance to talk me out of it. I pull my knees to my chest and lean forward, exposing as much of my back as I can. Zev shrugs out of his shirt, revealing his perfectly sculpted abs of steel. Before taking a seat on the edge of the tub, I raise an eyebrow at that and he shrugs. Wouldn't want to get it wet. Sure, I say, shaking my head. I think you're just allergic to clothing. He lays his large hands on my shoulders, the heat from his skin seeping into my perpetually chilled body, and I moan at the simple pleasure of it. Zev leans in, his lips coming dangerously close to my ear, his chest pressing up against my naked back. Not allergic, he whispers, but clothes do get in the way of some of life's most delicious moments, don't you think? They can be cumbersome at times, I agree, trying to keep my voice steady as he begins to massage the tension out of my muscles. As he works his way down my spine, I'm lost to his touch. He knows every tender muscle and how to coax the pain out of my body. I try not to sound like I'm having an orgasm over this massage, but it's damn hard, and I can tell my attempt at silence isn't fooling the werewolf. I can smell your arousal, he says, once again bringing his mouth to my ear. In a bold move that feels more like AJ than myself, I reach back with my hand and graze it over his pants. And I can feel yours. Even just the hint of my touch inspires a deep growl low in his chest. The timbre of it resonates through my body and ignites a fresh wave of desire that I do my best to fight. So I ask a question that could definitely kill the mood, and most likely will. Do you have someone back home? I let my hair fall over my face as I turn from him. Whatever his answer, I don't want to wear my heart on my sleeve right now. He clears his throat and pulls back, his hands lingering at my side lightly, grazing the sides of my breasts. No mate at home. Never, I ask. His fingers dig into my flesh and he moves against me, his mouth hovering over my shoulder. Wolves mate for life, love, he says, his voice cracking with emotion. And you don't know how dangerous these questions are for you. His lips brush against my shoulder, then his teeth nip my flesh, followed by a soft kiss. And then he stands and leaves, pulling the door closed behind him firmly. My skin is on fire from his touch, from his bite and his kiss. I rub at the faint teeth marks left in my skin and lean back, closing my eyes as I try to process what just happened. I can't sort out of my emotions. All I know is my skin is buzzing and my heart is racing. By the time I'm done with the bath and dried off, I feel like a whole new woman and am mostly recovered from my time with Zev, though I still feel a small bruising pain in my shoulder from his bite, and it brings to mind all manner of places I'd like to feel his mouth next. Shoving aside any sexy thoughts of the sexies, I check on Rain, who's sleeping soundly in her crib. To be so sheltered from the reality of the world. I tuck a blanket around her and then head to the living room where the guys are all there. Where's AJ? I ask. She said she had some errands to run, and will be back in a hot second. Darius says somewhat awkwardly. Okay. Why do you all look so weird right now? I ask, searching their faces. They're sitting around the kitchen table facing each other and seem to be in the middle of a very tense discussion. We have given thought to the situation, Rune says after a moment, and we have all come to realize there is more going on than we initially considered. Regarding the prophecy, your child and you. Zev clears his throat, his gaze landing on my shoulder before moving to my face. This is more complicated than my realm understood. I'm sure if my mother. Your mother? I ask, ignoring the way his forest green eyes make me weak in the knees. Who's your mother and what's she got to do with any of this? Zev looks to the other two, who remain silent, so he continues reluctantly. My mother is the queen of our realm. All three of us are princes. It was our duty to fulfill the prophecy in order to save our people. That's why we were schooled together along with Kara, the princess sent by the witches. Princes? Like actual freaking princes. Shit. No wonder they wanted to give my apartment a huge makeover. And here I've been putting them to work tending bar and cleaning floors. The thought makes me smirk just a smidgen. As I was saying, Zev continues, his eyes narrowing on my mouth, we do not believe our families understood the whole picture. So we have decided to send messages back to our realms explaining plans have changed. Plans? That snaps me out of any sexy thoughts. The plans to kidnap my kid? So you're not going to try to take Rain? I ask, hope rising in me despite my best attempt to quash it. Darius grunts with a mixture of annoyance and impatience. What Prince Zev is trying to say is that while the prophecy still holds and the need is still dire, we want to try to find another way. So you're all leaving? I ask, and my heart sinks at that thought despite being entirely pissed off at all of them 5 minutes ago. In a game of kiss, marry, kill, all three sexies would qualify for each column. These postpartum hormones are a bitch. No, Rune's voice is firm. More alpha than I've ever heard it. You and Rain still need protection. We will not abandon you. But while we wait for word from our respective families, we have decided to take a pledge that will give you and us reassurance of each of our intentions. Darius and Zev both shift uncomfortably as Rune speaks. Whatever he's talking about, it's meaningful. But a pledge? Like of allegiance? To the flag? That's the only pledge I can think of, and it sounds pretty useless. So what, this is like a glorified pinky swear? How is this supposed to reassure me? This pledge will bind us to you for the time being, he adds when Darius glares at him. We will not be able to take your child without your consent. PFT. Then you might as well throw in the towel. I'll never consent.
Rune nods.
I know that is how you feel now. It is our hope you will reconsider, given the consequences. Before I can interrupt to tell him where he can shove his pledge and his hope, he holds up his hand. Regardless, this pledge cannot be broken by any of us. It will run its course at the spring solstice, at which point we can all reassess. In the meantime, it will mean we no longer have to watch each other so closely. One of us can be with you while the others are tending to the bar or helping in whatever way you need. Rune pauses, then locks his gaze with mine and says softly, we will be here at your whim to serve, care for, and assist you, and most importantly to ensure the safety of your child. Oh my. Heat flushes my cheeks and my knees feel a bit wobbly suddenly. I want to fan my face, but that seems a tad extra, so I hold myself in check. Play it cool, Bernie. Play it cool. Right. Okay. That sounds fine. So when will you do this? My emotions are tumbling around inside me. Relief, fear, gratitude, lust, all of it making me an emotional mess. We need the right ingredients, Rune says, still leading the conversation. The proper herbs, a dusting of fresh snow. Sure. That sounds reasonable, I guess. And Rune hesitates and Darius grunts again. Unicorn blood, Darius says finally. We need unicorn